Good morning, everyone. I'll call the Board of Supervisors into session for the July 18th, 2022 Board of Supervisors meeting. We will start the meeting with the public comment section. At this time, anyone may address the board on matters of which are on the agenda. Please go to the podium, state your name and home address. Individuals wishing to comment on a public hearing will be given the opportunity during that respective hearing. Individual remarks are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone in chambers wishing to address the board? Seeing no one in chambers, do we have anyone on Zoom, Kevin?
We do not.
Okay. We'll move forward to the proclamations. We do have a proclamation today. It's the 69th annual Dubuque County Fair. Whereas the Dubuque County Fair is the largest and longest running family entertainment event in the county, now in its 69th year. Whereas the Dubuque County Fair continues to bring together our community, family, friends, both rural and urban, in a way that respects our great traditions while remaining current. Whereas our strong rural traditions of our community are celebrated with the support of the 4-H and FFA youth, as well as volunteers who share generously of their time and talents. And whereas the Dubuque County Fair, with more than 60,000 annual attendees, directly benefits the county by driving economic development in the region. And whereas the Dubuque County Fair is among the area's top entertainment value, featuring everything from creative arts exhibitions, races, the tractor pull and demolition derby, to the many animals, exhibits, demonstrations, grounds, entertainment, and national music acts. And whereas the Dubuque County Fair, which many consider the 6th best days of summer, officially opens on Tuesday, July 26th and runs through Sunday, July 31st, 2022. Now, therefore, we, the Dubuque County Board of Supervisors, do hereby recognize the 69th annual Dubuque County Fair and urge all citizens to participate in the many activities offered. Proclamation adopted this 18th day of July, 2022.
I will make a motion to approve the proclamation.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the proclamation. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. That is approved. Would you like to get a picture, Kevin, or?
Come on up. Right in the middle.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you, Kevin.
We'll see you next week.
All right.
Good morning, Kevin. I'll see you next week as well.
All right, thanks, Sam.
We'll move on to the approval of minutes of the meeting of July 11th. See any changes or corrections needed?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented for the July 11th meeting. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we move on to consent items. First is the fourth quarter sheriff's report. I believe it was just left off of last week's meeting on there, but it wasn't listed in the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the sheriff's report.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the fourth quarter sheriff's report. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a recommendation from the county assessor regarding the 2022 allowances and disallowance for homestead credit, military exemptions, and disabled veteran homestead exemptions.
I'll make a motion to approve the county assessor's report.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the recommendations from the county assessor. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have recommendation from the city assessor regarding the 2022 allowances and disallowances for homestead credit, military exemptions, and disabled veterans homestead exemptions.
Motion to approve.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the city assessor's recommendations. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we'll go to the procurement procedures, which we have none for this meeting. There are no public hearings for this meeting. Next is approval of plats. We have a resolution to approve the final plat, lot 1-3 and 2-3 at Clifford South Mound Addition. Is Tammy on?
I'm on. Good morning.
Morning, Tammy. Do you have any?
Yep, I'll go ahead and read it in for you. This
Okay.
property is owned by Tim Leahy and Andrew Leahy and is located 0.97 miles northeast of the city of Rickettsville along South Mound Road with a total of 25.43 acres surveyed. This property is zoned A1 agricultural and A2 agricultural residential, and that was on zoning case number 06 of 18 of 22. The purpose of the plat is to allow Andrew to build a home to continue to assist in the family farming operation. The survey creates two lots. Lot 1 of 3 has a total of 23.03 acres surveyed and it will remain in current ownership and agricultural use. Lot 2 of 3 has a total of 2.40 acres surveyed and it will be used for the construction of a new home. Lot 1 of 3 will use a 35-foot wide access easement across Lot 2 of 3. And Lot 2 of 3 will use an approved residential entrance on permit number 22-22 off of South Mound Road. There were no additions or corrections required for the plat. The mortgage holder's acknowledgement is signed and attached, and all of the signatures are current. This plat's been reviewed by myself as plat's officer, has all the required signatures, and I respectfully recommend approval. This is the follow-up plat from a zoning case that you just approved a couple of weeks ago. And so this is the plat where the son will actually build in that lot 2 of 3 area. Do you have any questions?
Okay. Ann, any questions?
No.
I'll make a motion to approve the plat as presented for Clifford South Mound Addition.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the final plat of the Clifford South Mound Addition. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the final plat, Woolworth Farm Subdivision Plat 2.
Okay, so the property is owned by Stephen and Don Wilbert and Eric and Meredith Leahy and is located 2.54 miles south of the city of Epworth along Placid Road with a total of 33.172 acres surveyed. The property is zoned A1 agriculture and A2 agricultural residential on zoning case number 0620 of 22. The purpose of the plat is to separate lot 1 to allow Eric and Meredith Leahy to build a farm home on the property that they were purchasing, and they will continue to use this property for the agricultural purposes. The survey creates two lots. Lot 1 is a total of 2.767 acres surveyed, and it's being sold to Eric and Meredith Leahy, and it will remain in current agricultural use. Lot 2 is a total of 30.450 acres surveyed with the farm buildings and a lagoon, and it will remain in current ownership and agricultural use. Lot 1 will use an approved residential entrance on permit number 21-52 off of Placid Road, and Lot 2 will use an existing field entrance off of Placid Road. There were no additions or corrections required for the plat. There are no mortgages on this property, and some of the signatures were 60 days old, and that just included the surveyor of May 20th of 2022. The plat's been reviewed by myself as plat's officer, has all the required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. Again, this is just one where we recently just did a rezoning to this property, and this is the area where the home will be built. Anybody have any questions?
This is the one where the home was built and kind of built on the wrong
Correct.
location, correct? Yeah.
Yep, this is just the correction plat for that where we did the double zoning case last time.
Okay. Jay,
Make a
any-
motion. I'll make a motion to approve the final plat of Wilbert Farm Subdivision Plat 2.
I will second that motion.
have a motion and a second to approve the final plat of the Woolworth Farm Subdivision number 2. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Thank you.
So move on to action items. We have a resolution to approve the hiring of deputies, assistants, and clerks, in 3 positions at Sunnycrest.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the hiring.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the hiring of deputies, assistants, and clerks. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the temporary delayed travel restrictions of county roads on September 17th for the 14th annual Research for the Kids Poker Run Ride.
Motion to approve.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the temporary delayed travel restriction for September 17th. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the temporary delayed travel restrictions of county roads on August 28th for the 3rd annual Research for the Kids UTV Ride.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the temporary delayed travel restrictions for August 28th. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution approving the special events permit application for Dubuque County Energy District and the Smokestack. Kevin, did you want to give some?
This is just a reapplication for, they had previously had their event approved. It had to be rescheduled due to rain. And an insurance certificate had since expired. So we had them simply give us a new application with the rain date on there and a new insurance certificate. And that is what you have in front of you.
Thank you. Any questions, Ann? Okay,
None for me. I'll make a motion to approve the special events permit.
did you second, Ann?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the special events permit for the Dubuque County Energy District and Smokestack. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve certain fiscal year 2023 purchase of service projects. Ed, did you have some context on that?
This is Ed Raber. At your meeting last Monday, as we collaboratively worked through that list of projects, these represent the projects that you assigned a dollar figure and sort of the general approval to. So just like we did last year, we've approved pooled them all into one resolution. There may be, it's possible that you may approve additional ones out of that grouping through different pots of funds, but this represents last week's.
Okay, the ones that you have listed there were all approved last week.
Right, and then based on after you, if this is approved, I would then begin immediately working with each of those groups to develop a contract to bring back to you for actual approval.
Okay. Any questions, Ann?
The only thing I would say is we didn't have, there's the Julian Dubuque Film Festival. I was not in support of that funding at that level, but I think overall, I think it's fine. These were not unanimous decisions, I don't believe.
Did you want to go through them individually?
No, I'm fine with the document as presented. I just think as we look at this in the future, we might just think about that.
Okay.
I'm good.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the listed fiscal year 2023 purchase of service projects. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we'll go to the resolution to approve the fiscal year 23 lease with the Mhds office space with the Dubuque Ideal Campus LLC.
If I might just, I have a question about that. There's still some sloppy language in it that references a 3% increase for lease year two, which is not, of course, included in this. It is a 1-year lease. And it doesn't have it has the removal of the deposit requirement. It still has just that sloppy holdover language of the increase for lease year 2. So, I mean,
My understanding was it was a 2-year lease agreement.
It was originally presented as a 2-year lease agreement. After your discussion last week, I went back to the property owner and conveyed the request you had to go to a 1-year lease with no security deposit. And he did not have any issues with that and sent the lease back for your consideration.
Yeah, the dates of the lease are 1 year. The term is for 1 year, 22 to 23. But you can see in the rent portion, there's a second paragraph that's just kind of sloppy. Because there is no lease year 2. It would be nice to not have that be there, but I would like to also get the lease signed. It's a clerical error, most likely.
Stella, your recommendation?
I think I understand what Supervisor McDonough is saying. It looks like that paragraph probably should have come out with the second year. However, I don't really see a problem as the dates reflected are correct and the rent paragraph 2 reflects correctly 1 year. It just does have that paragraph. I think you could do either. If we would like to ask him to clean that up, I'm sure that's okay, but I think the lease correctly reflects the 1-year term.
Did CJ look at this?
He looked at it originally. So he looked at it with the 2-year lease. The things that were removed were just the second year and the paragraphs related to the security deposit.
From my perspective, it would be nice to get, before the lease is signed, we can approve it today if you wish, but the lease before it's signed should have that language removed, just so we get the best documents we can.
I would agree.
I'm comfortable tabling it. I don't think there's any worry or issue related to our occupancy there or payment.
I'll make a motion to table for next week.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to table the lease for the Dubuque Idea Campus. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have the approval of the Ecia Business Growth IRP loan to Dubuque County Fair Association. Matt.
Good morning, Matt Speck with Ecia. All right, is that better? Yes. So we sent a memo out to the board regarding the Dubuque County Fair Association is requesting $150,000 10-year 2% loan from Dubuque County's IRP loan fund. The loan would help them do roof repairs to the ballroom. Between Kevin and Daryl Beekler, they met with the Business Growth Board a couple of weeks ago. Business Growth Board reviewed the application and approved it. And then we are down here for the supervisors to review and if they have any questions regarding the request from the Fair Association. The Fair Association has borrowed from this fund in the past, made payments as
We've lost the audio in the room. I can't hear Matt anymore.
You have to get closer to the mic, man.
Is this better, Ann?
No. Try again, please. Now I hear you again, yes.
The Fair Association had borrowed from this fund in the past and paid that loan back as agreed. No missed payments, no late payments.
Do you have any questions on it, Ann, or start?
Well, I guess it's more of a discussion point, but in light of all of the federal money that we've had, I just wanted to revisit what we did for ARPA for the fair. I don't necessarily, I'd like to just, why is it a loan of $150,000? I'm just flipping to see what funding we gave to the fair from ARPA.
I believe we gave the fairgrounds 100,000 through the ARPA. Is that correct?
Right.
Correct. This is Ed Raber. The request from the Fair Association was last September in the ARPA application was for $200,000. The supervisors approved this spring an award of $100,000. So this loan request is the financing that the Fair Association is seeking to fulfill the entire project, which between HVAC and roof improvements, they spec out at about $250,000.
So when we only met half of their request, I didn't understand that they would need to take out a loan. Obviously, 2% is not, extraordinarily high interest, but there's other things with the fair. We don't have a lease with them at this time. That expired, I think, 2 years ago. There's just other fair issues that we might want to be addressing with them. I think our purchase of service only funds their insurance. I mean, I'd like to see us have a robust relationship with the fair, and maybe this 2% loan is part of that. Maybe it's not. It just doesn't seem, it just feels a little bit like we're not being very generous to the fair in light of some of the other applications that came before us in ARPA. I just, would present that to my colleagues.
Okay,
If the fair director in the courthouse today, so maybe he would like to comment what their needs are and what their request is.
My name is Kevin Coates. I'm the general manager at the Dubuque County Fairgrounds. I think, when we originally applied for the ARPA grant, I think I'm saying that correct, we applied for $200,000. That still wasn't the full amount of the repairs that are going to be done with the price increases now and the economy. We're at roughly about $300,000. The ballroom is one of our main where we get our funds because it's booked out every day for a year. So we're just trying to get the roof done so we can continue to improve the insides of it. And we're just trying to make the fairgrounds a good place for everybody to use. Any other questions for me?
any questions, Ann?
I don't have a question. I guess it's just a comment, Kevin. I'd like to see us schedule a work session with the Fair Board again, just to, obviously after the 69th annual fair occurs, but just to continue to work with you to see how we might be strategically able to help you with even some of the remaining ARPA funding. We own the land, and it seems we should be a strong partner with you.
Yep, we would appreciate that opportunity.
Take just a moment here. Supervisor McDonough had noted that the lease arrangement that the county has with the Fair Association has expired, and that is true. At the supervisor's request, I have been collaborating and supporting Kevin as he has been working with his board of directors on updating a facilities plan for all of the facilities there at the fairgrounds. So that's something that I think that they are in at least final draft stage of, if not more complete. So that was one of the things that the supervisors had asked before we entered into another lease. And Kevin has been great about collaborating with me on sort of trying to develop that into a document that would be useful for his board as well as to the supervisors.
Yep.
Hopefully after the fair, we'll be able to bring that back to you.
Thank you, Ed. Anyone interested in making a motion regarding the business growth IRP loan?
I will make the motion to approve the loan.
I will second that.
Have a
Just by-
motion, second, oh, sorry.
Yeah, just by point, when they come before us with a request, it's not my intent to micromanage or to tell them how to do this. So yes, the loan would be very helpful to them. But I would like to see us I mean, we can't, require or make them need, come before us more regularly, but I can't stress enough how I think it's a good, strong relationship with the Board of Supervisors and the Fair Board and the fair operation. I think makes for a stronger, more vibrant economy. So that's what, Kevin, I look forward to working with you again, and I'm pleased that you're working on some strategic plans for us to see.
Well, we had our chance, they put an application in for $200,000 and the board cut that down. I've been probably the most generous of the supervisors related to the application, so I would be happy to reconsider your application for the additional funding if that's something your fair board is interested in.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the ECIA Business Growth IRP loan. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carries. We have discussion and direction on ECIA reapplication for the lead-based paint remediation program. Matt, again?
Yeah, good morning. Matt Speck again with Ecia. This conversation is kind of twofold. One is to give the supervisors an update on where the current Dubuque County lead grant stands. As you can see on that spreadsheet that we sent out, how many units we've done to date, how many applications we got completed, and then how many we have in progress yet. I will be honest, COVID kind of set us back when we hit that year where we couldn't get really into many people's units. Plus now we're struggling with supply chain issues. Some of those are starting to come back, but again, our numbers aren't where we want them. But again, COVID kind of hit us. The supply chain issues hit us. And also from finding out this was the first go around for this program in the county. And from speaking from past experience, we have the same grant down in the city of Clinton and the city of Macokota. We're actually on our second grant down there. The first one we struggled with too. It's just getting the word out, getting the applicants, but the second one we've done extremely well with. We're hitting our benchmarks. Again, supply chain issues are hurting us a little bit, but yet we're still really close to hitting those benchmarks. So that's just kind of a brief update on the current program, but this program does end in June of next year. HUD has come out, they've released the application to go ahead and apply again for next year. What we're looking at doing is broadening our service area to cover all of ECIA's counties. So we would cover Dubuque County, Delaware County, Cedar County, Jackson County, Clinton County. We would exclude the city of Clinton just because they do have their own, but we thought all those other counties, there's opportunity, I guess, to help them as well, because this is one of the few grants where you can go in unincorporated areas. And we've done that quite a bit, I think, with the Dubuque County grant has hit some actually farmhouses, and that's hard to do with a lot of grants. So I guess, like I said, it's kind of twofold, giving you an update on the current one, but then also asking for support as we go ahead and apply for another round of funding. We're looking at 100 to 125 units. Again, this would be in our 5 counties. If you split that out over 4 years, over the 5 counties, we're talking about maybe 7 houses per year within your county. So the local match would be roughly 15,000, because we're placing the local match at about $2,000 per house that we need. Again, that does kind of fluctuate depending on how much work we do in the houses, because it's a 10% local match. So again, we're estimating what those costs will be, but for grant purposes, that's what we need to do. I guess I'll take questions on the current grant or the proposal of the new one.
Jay, you have any questions?
I do not.
Ann, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. First, Matt, let me just say again, thank you so much for ECIA taking over. And actually, Mark Snyder wrote this grant application on behalf of Dubuque County. So that was phenomenal. And I always look forward to your updates because we, as you see in the slide before us, you can see visually the impact that's happening in making homes safer, and that there's a healthy homes component is fantastic too. That is written right into the China HIP. So the local community health needs assessment says strong priority to increase that healthy homes program. So this is, I think, fantastic. And I understand about COVID and just getting the, you know, the word out to the unincorporated areas. I had basically just two questions. The first, I think, simple. The new application round of funding will also exclude the city of Dubuque. Isn't that correct? They have their own grant?
Correct.
Okay. And then the other question is just a little bit more about the match. I don't remember, excuse me, the original amount. I think it was it a $300,000 grant?
I think Kim Glazer's here too. She's actually the project manager on
Yeah.
the Dubuque.
Maybe it was 3 million. It was just a really big number back in the day before all these other numbers were out there. All the other federal numbers were released. Do you remember, Kim, was it 3 million?
Yeah, it was just 3.2, including the healthy homes. And this
Okay.
round, we're probably going to apply for just over 5 million. So it is a 10% match.
Right. And so then to the match question, when Mark and I were working on this, that few years ago, part of the match was going to be like in kind when a family needed to move to housing or hotel at any discounted rates or anything that was able to be procured by Ecia, that would go toward our match. We weren't looking at this necessarily, this cash outlay per unit. I thought some of the match was going to be in kind. Is that what's occurred?
Some of the matches covered by the landlords, we require them to put 10% into their project. We have not pursued a hotel discount primarily because we work in such a large territory. It's hard to get a agreement established with so many hotels, and it's also very difficult to track and report that to HUD, how we're doing that. It is an option if we could get a relationship with just a few select hotels. But again, in such a large county community, it's hard to direct the families towards a hotel in Dubuque if they live in Dyersville or Manchester. It's just been difficult to get that set up, but that is an option. We've looked at other options, you know. Also, some communities use CDBG, but unfortunately we don't have entitlement CDBG money, so that's not one of our options. So we are searching always for match options, and any suggestions are always welcome.
Well, it's just interesting to see the program develop because, of course, when we started this, and it was, as you say, the $3.2 million, it was going to be for Dubuque County exclusively. And as Matt's already mentioned, with the slow rollout and the other barriers of, you know, our modern world, that's just the fact. So, but need to ask the question about the match, just to remind us that was, I don't think this Board of Supervisors necessarily agreed to just cash match 10% across the board to these homes. Although I think that's, I guess, the question before us today.
The 5 million that you're referring to is for the 7 counties or
5 counties.
5 counties?
Yes. In average, we put 20,000 of lead hazard control money in and 5,000 of the healthy homes. So we're spending on average 25,000 per unit. We've spent up to 60,000 on some units. So we are spending great amounts of money in these units and properties. So definitely getting a lot of bang for our buck.
I think we have money in the budget right now. Stella, don't we carry some funding for match? And we've never asked the local cities to do the match. I believe the county has said we would provide the match.
Correct. So we started I think we started at our budget, maybe 196,000, and then it was pared down to include Delaware County. So we had 164,000 in the budget, and over the last 2 years, we've used about 25,000 of that. So at the end of FY '22, we had 139,000, about 139,000. So we can carry that forward into FY '23 to finish out the remainder of the year of this program. And then the new program would start FY '24. Is that the first? Okay. Yes, we have about 139,000 to carry forward into FY '23.
I mean, at the rate you're talking about it being spent, that carryover balance might really get us a long way even to completing the new grant.
Yes, I think so. I think what you would do though is recommit. So this first one, I think we would carry forward that 139,000, finish out this program. I think the decision before you is to continue the program and reallocate the funding at the level needed for that program.
Right. Right. Well, thank you. I appreciate everyone's financial update on this. I think that it's something that is high priority for me, and also that Healthy Homes program, as I said, is in the community health needs assessment. So I appreciate the work that's being done, and I hope we can complete both grants on behalf of Dubuque County.
Thank you for your good work. Continue.
Thanks.
Harley, I was going to make a motion, but did you want to say something or have questions?
No, I'm fine. I'm good.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the Ecia reapplication for the lead-based paint remediation program.
We'll second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the ECIA reapplication for the lead-based paint remediation program. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye, carries. Next we go to communications. Zoning Board of Adjustments resignation from Lillian Kramer.
I'll make a motion to receive and file that resignation and thank Mrs. Kramer for her service.
Second, and agree with the comments.
Have a motion and a second to receive and file the resignation from Lillian Kramer. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. I would also add, I'd like to thank her for her service on the board. Next, we have a manure management plan, McDermott Farms, number 64599.
Motion to receive and file.
Second that.
Have a motion and a second to receive and file the McDermott Farms manure management plan 64599. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have manure management plan for Rooter Dairy Incorporated, number 65724.
I'll make a motion to receive and file.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to receive and file the Ryder Dairy manure management plan. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we go to open vacancies for information only. Oops, sorry. Go to appointments. Have an appointment to the Veterans Affairs. That was overlooked, I believe. The only application for that position from Sharon Trenholm, who's currently on that board.
Sharon does just a fantastic job. I think I'm happy to make a motion to approve that appointment.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to appoint Sharon Trenholm to the Veterans Affairs Board. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we go to the open vacancies for information only. Go to personnel requisitions. We have a motion to approve the personnel requisition for permanent full-time licensed surveyor, design engineer for secondary roads. Be replacing, like his name right now that was moved to the assistant engineer.
Wyatt Anderson.
Wyatt,
No problem.
thank you. Sorry about that.
I don't hear anywhere of it. I see. The only question I had was the salary step, if that had been determined. And what position he would start at, whether it be first step or the second step
For who?
for this position. Or actually, so we're just posting this position. Okay, I'm with you. So the position is just being posted at this point. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel requisition.
And I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the personnel requisition for the licensed surveyor, design engineer for secondary roads. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a motion to approve the personnel requisition for permanent full-time maintenance worker 2 for secondary roads. And that one is due to an upcoming retirement, or Barry Mesher is retiring or has retired.
After many years of service, much appreciated. I'll make a motion to approve the personnel requisition.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the personnel requisition for the permanent full-time maintenance worker 2 secondary roads. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a motion to approve the personnel requisition for 2 permanent full-time clerk 4 positions in the treasurer's office. I believe one is an unfilled position and the other one is for Christine Cruz. I'm not sure if that was someone that was promoted or. Okay, she was promoted to deputy, so 2 clerk 4 positions to be filled there, according to our treasurer Denise Dolan.
I'll make a motion to approve the clerk, the 2 clerk 4 positions.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the personnel requisition for 2 permanent full-time clerk 4 positions in the treasurer's office. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Going to public comment. At this time, anyone may address the board on matters of which are of concern to that person and which are not agenda items. Please go to the podium, state your name and home address. Please be aware that the board is limited in their ability to respond to such inquiries, and Iowa Code prohibits the board from deliberating or acting on items not appearing on the agenda. Individual remarks are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone in chambers wishing to address the board?
Larry Smock, City of Worthington, Mayor. So I know you guys are going to talk about it in your work session, but the purchases of services, you guys have tabled some of those, and I know quite a few cities had put in requests for that too. And so as you guys consider that, and I really appreciate Jay being a strong advocate for a lot of those. For a small city like Worthington, that $10,000 that we're basically requesting for our well maintenance and redo is pretty significant to us to be able to find that money. I think that all the cities within the county benefit the county in the outside. So like in our project alone, if there's fires outside of the city, we don't charge for that water that's used from the city to take care of that, or the mutual aid. And so we really hope that the county supervisors will really look at those opportunities in those requests and see the benefits that they are not only for the citizens of the incorporated communities, but those outside as well. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
Do we have anyone else in chambers wishing to address the board? Do we have anyone on Zoom wishing to address the board, Kevin?
We do not.
We'll make a motion to recess for 5 minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to recess for 5 minutes. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. We will come back in session at 9:50. Okay, I'll call the Board of Supervisors back into session for a 9:40 work session. The Dubuque County Early Childhood Purchase of Service Application. Who do we have presenting on that?
Erotic, but I do not see.
Ed, sorry.
Right? Tara Roddick is a partner with Dubuque County Early Childhood, and Abby Dendekar could not be here this morning. So Tara is going to cover that for us. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning,
So
Terry.
good morning.
Ann McDonough, when is Abby available? Is she just on vacation for a week?
No, we did not hear about this meeting until Thursday and did not get information until late last night. So she has a child who is in summer camp, and
Yeah.
so that conflicted with this time this morning.
Right. And I mean, it would be my preference to hear from Abby. She's the director. You are a community partner through Child Care Resources and Referral, but
Yes.
Abby is the director of this program. So I don't know. I mean, you're here by Zoom, as am I today, so that's great. But I just wondered if she might be available next week, if we might not hear from her. I guess it would be 2 weeks because next week is our evening meeting.
I cannot answer for Abby on her availability.
I'd like to be giving you more heads up than, 48 hours or something.
Yes.
Okay. We can move it off for 2 weeks if you'd like. That'd be.
I'm comfortable either way. I'm very familiar with Tara and the work that she's done in addition to the Butte County Early Childhood. But it's always good to hear from those organizations, and I would love to hear from the Director Abigail as well. So I don't believe there's any immediate funding crises or any issues that we're facing related to this program. So if we could have the whole team here in a couple of weeks, I would be open to that.
Okay.
And can you tell me what day and time that would be?
No.
August 1st.
All day. You're gonna give her a time?
It would be a
August
Monday in
1st.
2 weeks.
We'll have to get you the time, but it would be.
The agenda will come out just a few days before then, and it will be Monday, the
August 1st.
August 1st.
Okay, and I am available in the morning. I'm not available in the afternoon. So will it be a morning session, do you believe?
Yes, it will be morning.
Probably about the same time as today, somewhere in the 9:30, 10:30 range.
Okay.
And I guess you can tell that it's important that Abby be here. So
Yep.
if that's a scheduling issue for her, then we would need to be aware of that right away as well.
I will contact her and we will block off our schedule for that morning.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being here. It's good to see you again.
Yes, good to see all of you. Stay healthy.
Tara.
Yep.
Okay, we'll move to our second work session with Habitat for Humanity.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. My name is Erica Haugen, and I'm the Executive Director with Dubuque and Jackson County Habitat for Humanity. And thanks for looking at our applications. We did submit two. The first application that we were submitting is with our build program. We build homes in partnership with families that are earning under 80% of area median income. And those families have to demonstrate eligibility, a need for housing, and a willingness to partner with us through the process of developing homeownership skills, but also building their home or participating in other volunteer engagement in their neighborhood that they're going to be living in. So typically, we've built about one home a year. This affiliate has been in Dubuque County since 1991. And added Jackson County, let's see, in I think it was 1997. And we've served 31 families. The majority of those have been in Dubuque, though, in the city of Dubuque. 27 of those families that we've partnered with to either build or rehab homes have been in Dubuque, and then 4 in Macokota. So one of the things our board has asked us to do is, and has committed to doing, is serving more families in the rural areas as well. So that's what we're looking to do.
Thank you for being here. As we were mentioning in the break, I don't think we've had an opportunity to work with Habitat for Humanity, at least during my term. Can you talk a little bit about the applications? We've got 2 line items, one called a box truck for restore for 10,000. The request is, and then the second one was for home build for 10,000. And then I think the entire projects respectively were 50 for the box truck and 150,000 for the home build.
The home build projects, typically, like I said, we build about one a year. We did do 2 builds. They started in 2020, right before COVID. And so they were able to start a home in Macokota in the Pocket neighborhood that they partnered with Ecia to do. Beautiful, sweet little home. Did take us almost 2 years to finish that because volunteers all had to drop off because of COVID. And then 1 home in Dubuque. So we have another project underway in the city of Dubuque, and would look to start planning for the future, and with the goal of at least building 1 home outside of the city, in either Dubuque or Jackson County as we go forward. We just haven't really been able to do that as well. A couple of barriers to that, I think, though, that do add to the difficulty. Transportation is a bit of a difficulty. Our office is located in Dubuque. We do have tool trailers, but we don't have a vehicle to transport those trailers. So we're very reliant on volunteers to help transport that trailer to the site for the work. And then coordinating and logistics with volunteers a little bit further away can get a little trickier also. So definitely learned a lot when we were engaging in Macokota about how to engage the local community. And then learned a lot about engaging during COVID. So we've been working this year to help bring volunteers back to bring back corporate volunteers and partners and group volunteers. And we're seeing that slowly come back a bit. I don't know what else I can, do you have specific questions about the homes or the families?
I have a couple questions, but I'll let you, Supervisor McDonough, jump in.
The first question is, not too often we get 2 applications from one entity. Like to see which one you would say is more important.
Definitely the home build. That's the one we'd be looking for. The homes, basically, we try to build them as affordably and as simply as possible with partners. So when we say we have about $150,000 budget, that's about $100,000 in, land acquisition, purchasing materials, construction side, about $25,000 in in-kind donations, so materials, like someone might donate floors, furnace, HVAC. We'd look to try to do solar as well, is a new thing that we've been trying to do. And then about $25,000 in volunteer labor is how we kind of price those. Now, families buy these homes from us at the appraised value. So the last home that we built in Dubuque actually appraised at $182,000. And if the family has income sufficient to support that, if their mortgage payment is affordable, we'll give them a mortgage for the full amount. If they need, if they can only afford to pay, say, $100,000, we can do a forgivable second mortgage on that property so that the family's payment stays at 30% of their income and is always affordable to them going forward. So that's kind of our goal. It is a little bit of a misconception though sometimes that we give these homes away. Families do actually purchase them. They do have to go through some home readiness and credit building, make a small down payment, and then we use additional resources that might be available in the community to buy down the mortgage as well.
Excellent. Very good. Ann, do you have any questions?
I do. Good morning, Erica. I'm sorry I'm not with you in the boardroom this morning. So, I support this model of what you do and have for many years in through other foundation work. But, for me, I see your application right now and it seems a little, it's a little vague for me, honestly. I don't believe you know where you're building, in which county you're building. Our funding would not be appropriate to fund a build in Jackson County. Regardless of your service area, that won't work. So, that's my concern. I don't know when you will know more specifically, and if this is kind of that, which comes first, do you get the funding or do you get the location? I guess I would just say I support what you want to do, but I need more detail. I need to know where I am helping you build a home.
Yeah, absolutely. And Supervisor McDonough, those are really valid questions. So for Dubuque County funding, that would have to go to a home that was built in Dubuque County, obviously. One of the things that I would like to make sure that we do is that we have to have site selection in order to, or we have to have that site selected and secured in order to apply for additional funding and resources. So we had a really good partnership with Ecia for the build in Jackson County. I think we could replicate that perfectly in Dubuque County and provide a really affordable home, partnering with resources and identify eligible families to be able to do that. And then we've also have a working partnership with USDA and have just signed on as a Veterans Build affiliate as well, which will open some additional resources for populations that might not be able to apply, but also makes it more sustainable for Habitat to build in those areas as well. So once we get a site secured, we're able to identify a family and then apply for additional resources to go along with that.
Do you think that's going to happen? So we're in our new fiscal year. Will that happen soon? What's the timeline for knowing more specifics?
Yeah, I think we have resources available to secure a site or to purchase a lot, I think within this year, depending on some of the other funding sources and activities that we have going on. I don't think I'll have a full home completed and built in a year, but definitely a family selected, a site lined up, and funding sources connected with that. And then typically our program from application to finish is about 12 to 18 months for those families. Takes on average, most families, it takes about 14 months to complete their sweat equity. So they do between 200 and 300 hours of sweat equity. So we want to make sure that they have time to be able to do their part of the contract and in combination with our build as well.
The mayors meet on Thursday evening, and I've asked the Ecia is going to put together a presentation on the pocket neighborhood from Ococadi, Bear Creek. That's an exciting milestone too for Ecia to have completed that and have all the units sold. So there was interest a couple of years ago from some of the communities of pocket neighborhood, but sometimes you just have to see it actually occur and begin to understand, what it actually means. So maybe we'll have more interest there, but I don't know if a purchase of services grant for our next fiscal year, which would be next July, might fit your timeline better than, I guess I'm hesitant to allocate funding if there's not specifics ready to go.
And typically we could locate sites pretty quickly. We would certainly be open to that as well. For individual builds, it's usually not too terribly difficult to find a single lot that is suitable for a build. But for something like the scale and scope of the pocket neighborhood, which we really enjoyed being invited to be a partner with that, and that home turned out beautifully and the neighborhood turned out beautifully. Those types of projects definitely would take a bit longer, yes.
You would be looking for the funding for this coming year, correct?
Yes, we're actively looking for sites. We have a site selection committee that identifies sites that are suitable. We look at a number of criteria, particularly, you know, we want to locate housing where it meets the needs of the families that we're serving. Something that's going to be increasing their quality of life, getting them closer to where they need to be, as well as maintaining that affordability.
So it's something you could put in the contract, right? That it'd just be for rural Dubuque County, and whenever you found a lot, I mean, the contract would be ready, the funding would be available if you wanted to use that funding, or, you know, towards a lot or whatever.
Yeah, and we could also put in something too, if you want to review the site that we've located and identified and why, we can certainly bring that back to you. Yeah, it's a request, yeah.
And I guess I would prefer to maybe do it where we don't allocate funding, so that when you're ready, you can contact us at that time and we can consider it at that time. I understand the facts of how long it takes to complete a project, but I would like to see a project underway and begun before we would allocate funding.
Couple things I like about this. So one, you're volunteer based and it's local. The other component is that it's housing. And so one, that's a very high need that we have in our community. And then two, those houses, correct me if I'm wrong, but those houses then go back on the tax roll, correct? They pay taxes just like any other neighbor.
They do.
So that would come directly back to Dubuque County and to the other taxing authorities, whether you're a city or a school district. And so that's a really good thing. And so I'm very much a supporter and would like to see funding for this year.
Anything further, Ann?
No, I mean, I think we're all in agreement. We want to have funding this year. I think there's consensus. I'm just asking for some more specifics to be known.
Yeah, and if you'd like to not fund lot acquisition, which is a little bit different, we have a project going right now, but it's not in the county. So
no,
yeah, I'd like to look at the county
right,
if we could,
absolutely.
not within the city. So
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're all in agreement, and I think you what you do, obviously, as I stated, you do an incredible service to the county and the 31 families, soon to be 32 families that you work with.
Thanks. We really try, and we enjoy working with the families and the volunteers and bringing folks together that way. So
The purchase of service are reimbursement grants. So you get to the point you want to, you know, expend the funds, you reimburse. So
yep.
Thank you. I'm
Yep. Any other questions?
very much in favor of it also. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, next we'll go to the purchase of service projects considered for funding through the ARP. Ed, I believe you have that. I believe they were all the cities, if I'm not mistaken.
This is Ed Raber. The auditor is getting a screenshot up. At last week's meeting, as you touched on each of the applications, there were a series of them that you set aside for decision making, and the discussion was that some of those potentially, because earlier at last week's meeting before this discussion, you had approved a process for using the lost revenue that may have opened a door to facilitating the way you might program some additional ARPA funds, I guess is the best way I can say that. So I've kept the numbers of each of the applications the same, but I've sort of categorized them here That second group of applications there off to the right says ARPA, and with a question mark, just that the board had discussed last week that potentially you might consider looking at those applications, but funding them from a different source than purchase of service. You did not rule that out, but you were just sort of wanted a further discussion. So bringing those back, those tended to be applications from smaller cities that had a public works sort of project, and a couple of other projects that were sort of physical projects at buildings.
Okay. The city of Bernard was for a lift station, flow meters, upgrade for sewer for 18,000. Jay had recommended that go towards the ARPA funds as it falls into the infrastructure and water and sewer category. Do we want to continue moving that forward that way?
Can I make an overall comment?
What was that, Ann? Sorry.
I have just an overall comment. Each of these, the cities received ARPA funding themselves. I wouldn't mind getting a brief memo, you know, couple sentences, paragraph about what the cities did with their ARPA funding, just so that we know that, you know, it's been used on, or what it's been used on. Might make our decision. It'd just be interesting to know. I think it would be helpful for me.
Good.
I had collected a lot of that information last over the winter, and it was not included in the packet. If you give me a minute here, I could maybe find that. It would be somewhere on this laptop here, or I can do whatever you want. But most of the cities did respond to a request I made for them about that information.
Okay.
And as I did the math of the total of these requests, so the box that begins with number 1 and ends with number 31, so Bernard City of and Worthington City of it, I think that's $74,000 in requests. Is that correct?
You say 74, Ann?
I think that's what it was.
I would say that's probably pretty close.
So I mean, we're, you know, that over that many projects, we're not talking about, you know, even $100,000 here in terms of, you know, ARPA allocation. So these are modest requests. And they do, as Mayor Larry Smock said from Worthington, who was just at our public comments at the podium, they do have tremendous impact on these communities. So I would like to see us find a way to fund them. And I don't think that their requests are very large.
Right, all of the requests are partials where there's quite a bit of input by the cities. One I'd have a question on is the Dyersville Historical Society. I think that one should stay at the purchase of service because it is the Historical Society. I don't think that has to go to the ARP funds for the $9,000.
You also have New Vienna. They have a museum tuck pointing, so it's identified as number 21. It's similar. It's a, you know, it's the restoration and the preservation. Both of those are the preservation of historic building in the community. So
Right.
whether, I personally think ARPA is a good use of that funding. If Stella thinks that it fits inside the ARPA priorities, likely these will have to come out of our own county lost revenue
I
line.
believe we gave Dyersville Historical Society money out of the purchase of service for the phase 1 of that project.
We didn't have any ARPA decisions made at that time. That would be the difference.
And have an issue with that. Go ahead, Larry.
Larry Smock, Mayor of the City of Worthington. So as you look at the smaller communities up there, Bernard, Worthington, Luxembourg, you'll notice that all of ours are for something to do with water, sewer, or stormwater. And so really for a smaller community, our hands were really tied with the ARPA allocations of what we could do with those funds. So our project is roughly $70,000 for us to replace this wellhead and do this. We're taking our allocation of the $59,000 that we're getting in ARPA funds and putting it towards that. And so what we requested is just the shortfall from that to complete the project. And I think you'll probably find that with most of the cities that have a infrastructure project that they're doing, that they're probably allocating those ARPA funds towards that because we were really pigeonholed on what we could do with that funding.
Thank you, Larry. That's very helpful.
Thank you, Larry. The city of Holy Cross was the exterior repair or tuck pointing of the postal service building. That was for 17,137. Total project was 34,000. Want to keep that EA or PA?
I'm generally supportive of all these under ARPA. I think the time is right for our fund balances related to ARPA or our lost revenue category of ARPA. And for the whole, most of the smaller communities are very self-reliant, very independent, and the requests are usually important and modest. So that's makes it easier to say yes to those at this time.
Any comments on that one, Ann, or want me to keep moving down, or?
Well, if we're going to move through them line by line, you know, what we have is their application, and I don't know if Ed's found the information. I don't disagree with what Mayor Smock said. All of the communities could have used more funding from ARPA. I guess as I look at these as a group, I think that they could be funded by our ARPA funding. I can't read our budget director's face because I'm not in the boardroom, but I don't know if any of these present difficulty for us.
I think if we move forward with funding small cities under ARPA, it would have to go under our lost revenue for sure. We still have to remind ourselves that the traditional ARPA funds were intended for pandemic relief and mitigation. So we just need to be very sure under those $8.9 million that we're sticking very traditionally to the guidelines. This, I think we could fund any of the cities through our lost revenue.
Right, and it did talk about infrastructure as well. So I can see where many of those fit. The museums relate directly to tourism.
Yeah, the infrastructure is water and sewer only, so we have to be careful. It's not road construction, things like that. It was very specific of what kind of infrastructure that was. And travel and tourism, of course, was called out specifically.
I actually think all of these fit within what we've done in the past. The only, I think we did for the city of Luxembourg, we did a roads project.
We have to be careful, and I need to double check that we can, in fact, distribute ARPA funds to small cities as well.
Right, well, the city of Luxembourg, I think that was, they had put in for this and put in for the new road at the same time, right, Ed? I think when we approved the road through the ARP funds, Dyersville was, or Luxembourg was going to pick up this project.
I just can't see putting these communities through a greater, higher hurdle than we have for some other grants that we have made. Honestly, these are, I think as Supervisor Wickham said, and I've said, they're modest, and they will make a significant difference in those communities for, quality of life, because it directly relates to their infrastructure, whether we think it's classically infrastructure. The New Vienna Area Historical Society, that is an amazing facility. I would encourage everyone to go see it.
If you're in favor of putting all of those through the ARP funds, I'd entertain a motion to move them all to the ARP funding then.
Ed, did you have anything to add?
The addition, thank you Supervisor McDonough. The statement I would make is that as you do this and begin to call these projects ARPA, the flexibility that the supervisors gave itself last week was to say that it was going to use, begin to process all of its lost revenue, $10 million, in a fashion that would allow it to use unspent county dollars to fulfill those ARPA requests as county requests, which gives you the flexibility to more flexibility on project eligibility than ARPA, the federal bill would allow. You're using ARPA in legitimate ways that the federal government has outlined, and using resources that you did not spend to essentially fulfill the projects that we have called ARPA. Those projects would be funded due to ARPA, but not with federal funds.
Right, it has to be, I say, there has to be a paper trail showing where the funding is coming from. So that has to be in the contract that.
Right. Somehow that tie that these projects, really essentially virtually all of the projects that you've done, we anticipate bringing back to you in a way that reflects so that there's a continued understanding for posterity that these have been funded due to these federal availability of funds, but not with federal funds. Similar to how the county has worked with the Iowa DOT to swap federal dollars for state dollars. That swap program has been one that has been universally appreciated by cities and counties across the state that may not be moving forward, but very similar to how we do that. It's because of those federal dollars we're able to do that road project, but it's not a federal project. We've swapped those federal dollars.
Right.
So in approving this, we'd want to approve it that the listed entities that are currently under the ARPA would be purchase of service.
Would essentially be
connected to the ARP funding.
Correct.
Okay.
I support the assistance to the small communities. It has significant impact on the community. So if you're looking for a motion to approve those through the, it's the Biden administration rescue money. That's what this is. And if we can be good partners with the small communities to make a difference there, I think we should do that on these projects. So my motion is to approve the application from the City of Bernard, Dyersville Area Historical Society, City of Holy Cross, City of Luxembourg, New Vienna Area Historical Society, New Vienna Athletic Association, City of Sherrill, and the City of Worthington.
I will second that.
You have a motion and a second to approve the funding to the small cities through the ARP funds, through the purchase of service program with funds from the ARP. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. They're all approved.
One additional information that would be helpful for me and probably the other supervisors, who's left? So out of the 21 incorporated cities, not necessarily all the historical societies, but the 21 incorporated cities, who has received funding and maybe who has not. I would be interested in seeing that list.
Mhm.
Probably about halfway home.
Altown, Centralia,
You,
Zwingle,
I think Durango.
Durango, Grap.
there's, yeah. So, yeah, I would like to see that list. It'd be wonderful.
The Dubuque County Early Childhood, we're gonna hear from in 2 weeks. Habitat from Humanity. Did we want to make a motion on that, or
I'm comfortable moving forward.
forward for the home build for 10,000? Okay. And Dubuque County Energy District, there was some confusion on that, I think. They had received funding through the ARPA. Similar project for energy assessments,
thought was-
energy coaching.
As I recall, I think Supervisor Wickham felt that might be another grant idea, that it's not enough overlap, that it shouldn't be considered on its own. I would welcome a presentation from Green Energy if they want to address the contents of this application for purchase of services. I don't need to just lump them together if it's truly a separate need.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah, I think anytime we can have somebody present to us and further clarify their need and the impact in the community, that's a good thing.
okay, we
And
can
may-
schedule that for the first and two.
And maybe, yeah, and maybe Ed, ask them when they're here to just kind of update us on the award that we did make. You know, maybe it probably will be Michaela Freiberger, but maybe she can differentiate between what the funding that they will at some point be receiving from the rescue plan and this one. So to tell us how it's different and what is the shortfall, or how this need is separate.
Okay. What other ones need to be gone over at the
Chair Potoff, did you want to have a motion for the Habitat for Humanity home build?
I'm comfortable making that motion.
Oh, okay.
Until it's appropriate. So I'll make a motion to approve funding for the home build application for $10,000 for Habitat for Humanity.
I will second that if we can agree the contract's going to say after site selection has been made.
That was not my motion.
The
There's a motion on the table. Does it have a second?
I would make the second with discussion. The purchase of service project is a reimbursement grant, so obviously we would have the information knowing where the lot and everything is going to be before they would be receiving funds.
Well, that's the purpose of the discussion, to be sure that it is for a build that's here and for a build that's underway and something that is going to have significant work done during this fiscal year, right?
Right.
And once it leaves us, we only ever hear updates when we ask for them.
True.
Yeah, I would agree. I think all that's true. And I think that's why we had them present to us. And I think those specific questions were addressed and brought up, that the funds that we would allocate would be in Dubuque County. And that's no different than funding we've done with Ecia and many other groups that operate past the county. And so, and we are not equipped as a board of supervisors to dive down into the nitty gritty of each one of these grants and say, you must and shall do this. So we are relying upon the good nature and the process of these nonprofits and our staff and auditor's office to make sure that we get the results that we're funding. But I would be hesitant to jump into details of these and start indicating specific language.
Well, we can indicate some specific ideas because this is the only opportunity the three of us have to give direction together to Ed Raber, who's going to be developing these contracts. So again, I can't see Ed's face, but I'm imagining he's taking notes. So the contract language will somehow facilitate this. And I don't know what it'll be. That's what he will do, but you know,
Well,
eventually.
The contract would have to state that it has to be in Dubuque County, rural Dubuque County.
And again, all these claims will be made once the expenses are incurred. And ultimately, number one for the supervisors is to audit and approve the claims. So when that claim for $10,000 comes up, if it is not a parcel within Dubuque County, you don't approve the claim and our office doesn't issue the check. So there are multiple layers of security here to make sure that this parcel will ultimately be in Dubuque County. And I think they made that clear earlier today as well.
Any further discussion? A motion and a second to approve the funding purchase of service for Habitat for Humanity for the home build for 10,000. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. It carries. Is that the last one we needed to go through, Ed? That's what I thought. All right.
What did he say? Like, what did Ed say? I didn't hear anything.
The ones that are left are the ones that we declined last week. And
Okay, I would agree.
Well, and those, and so so like Macocata River watershed, there's a couple on there, just maybe we're clear that the ones that don't have dollar amounts, so number 3, 9, 10, 16, 20, 25, and 30, is that what we're discussing?
Yes.
bring that back up. Kevin, sorry about that.
Three, 9, 10, 16, 20, 25, 30.
3 says funded, so that was my comment. So that maybe that was
Right. You have funded essentially that project.
Is that on today's resolution or not?
It was not, because you have funded that with ARPA funds and something. It just ended up, Supervisor Wickham, that the day that this application was due was about the same day that you were approving the ARPA. They were hedging their bets. They didn't.
I'm good with that one. So the other one that just, caught my attention was the Macocata River Watershed Management Group. I thought the board's intent was to fund that. Just want to make sure, was that funded?
You funded most of that with ARPA funds. They made a 5-year, multiple year request, and you fulfilled that with ARPA. And again, the same day that you fulfilled that was the day that this was due. So they were working in tandem, trying to make sure they got one or the other.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. We caught them all while we have the list in front of us. Thank you.
You have them all taken care of and you have direction on.
Right. So there are
contracts ready, right?
There are 2 projects, 2 organizations that will be inviting to appear here August 1st. And those are the 2 last applications in this grouping here. Okay. Just make sure we're all on the same page. That's what we're going to do.
That's my understanding.
Any other comments, questions for Ed, Ann?
My last comment is that I will be with some haste, be contacting and begin to work with all of these organizations, including the ones that say that you sort of approve by motion that you haven't done by resolution, assuming that I'm going to assume right now that I can begin work with them. So I'll be contacting all of those groups to see if as quickly as we can to bring a contract that we've worked with them on back to you for approval, and then for their organization to approve.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good work.
Good. Nothing further. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make a
So
motion and I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Ann.
Thank
Hope
you.
you're feeling better.
Thank you.